the standards of work as far as a broadcaster in Canada is concerned? What's it like? I mean, would the guys who graduate from the Philippines make it there? Because you graduated in Vancouver. Okay.
I think Filipino journalists, as far as I can see from growing up here, it's far more better. You've got this journalism instinct that you can't learn in school. You just know what makes a good story. You know.
Because from the day you were born, you're either listening to DCMM or ANC or Channel 2.
Yeah.
So it's integral to the growing up of the person.
No, this was even before ABS-CBN went back on air when I started watching the news. It was Tina Monzon Palma, I think, on GMA7 that I was watching. So, yeah, it kind of shaped up the way I think of how news should be done. In Canada, there's a lot of do's and don'ts. Yeah. Same thing in Singapore.
Yeah, but you know, you come from a Chinese-Filipino family, and you had, you know, you had the opportunity to stay in Canada, etc. But I'm just curious. I don't know of a lot of Chinese Filipinos who would love to be in, you know, in news, in broadcasting for that matter. I mean, it seems like, you know, anti-culture.
It is. It is. I think apart from Kathy Yap and myself.
Exactly, myself.
Yeah, I think my parents were not too happy when I said I wanted to do this. It's like, you're Chinese, you have to go through business school and, you know, open up your own business and we'll help you set up and this is the way we do it.
Was it rebellion on your part or your generation? Because, you know, like, was it Tim Yap? You know, the eventologist and all these other guys, Chinese, Filipino, your age, who seem to have gone into fields that, you know, aren't traditionally appreciated by the Chinese Filipino.
I think we're not rebellion in that sense, but you know, when you grow up and you see things and you see news on TV and say, hey, one day I want to do that, and you just keep doing things that will lead you there. So when I went to Vancouver, I said, I want to do broadcast journalism. My parents were like, you know, no, we don't do these things. What are you going to do afterwards? I was like, well, I'm going to work on radio or TV and do news.
He wants to be an employee. That's great for the family.
Exactly. That's what my dad said. Why do you want to be working for someone else when you can be your own boss? I'm like, it's not that. It's, I think, you know, at a certain time of your teenage life, you know exactly what you want to do and you want to give it a try at least. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was too lazy to go and finish school for that. So I said, broadcast journalism is really nice. It's something that I wanted to do.
Okay, so you got into radio. You came to the Philippines. Did it inspire you, or did you say, if this is what I'm going to be facing, forget it?
No, the first time I worked or had to deal with working here as a reporter was during the last SEA Games.
Okay.
And, you know, we've all heard stories of how unorganized it was, even in the media center, but I survived, and it was actually an experience, and that's why I said, hey, I can work here.
How unorganized? My father would, you know, would turn in his grave to hear a reporter say that. I mean, their philosophy, and I grew up with that philosophy. What bureau, what organization? You were sent to school to learn all the skills, and you're supposed to find it yourself and not be handed out to you. What is the difference between the Philippine setting and the regional setting or the Singaporean setting? Are you guys handed the package and say, okay, Mr. Go, here's all the stuff you need, go make your story?
Working, I did cover APEC 97 in Vancouver.
Okay.
And Media Center was set up weeks in advance. You have computers, internets, phones, everything ready to go. Your press passes are all ready. During SEA Games, sadly, the first day we arrived, there were no press passes.
Okay.
We went to the broadcast center and said, oh, your press pass is here, but we don't have lamination plastic, so you have to come back in the afternoon. You know, things like that. Computers were getting set up, but I was telling my crew, this is just the way we do it here. Just, you know, sit back, relax, and just wait and smile and, you know.
Go look at the athletes.
Yeah. Eventually, you're right. You know, you find your own way. You can't rely on the broadcast center to get your scores and things like that. So you just call.
How does that affect your work in relation to, because you've been sent here. Whatever you do in the Philippines must go back to Singapore
at a certain time.
At a certain time, and it must be filtered out. The fact that the logistical support wasn't here, what does that result to in terms of exposure coverage? Does your editor or your producer in Singapore just say, hey, if those guys can't even provide the basics, then we won't carry the story? Is that the philosophy?
In the first few days, it was because we relied on the official SEA Games website for results. But after a while, we were getting ahead of them. Medal tallies, you guys, ABS-CBN's medal tally was way ahead of the official one. So there were so many different sources. We finally had to I just said, no, let's just do with whatever I have.
So in the end, you still have to do your work, get all the information, and it's not chucked out by the editor or the producer. Because, some people are saying that if you do not make the necessary arrangements, the necessary support, the carrier is just going to say, forget them. They're not worth our time, our people. We'll just cover other areas. Because, in fact, there's an issue right now of the Philippines not being on the weather map of most of the stations.
Yeah, Manila sort of, for us, it's still there.
I know we exist. You are in the Philippines, so how come we're not in the weather map of all the, regional and international?
We're almost falling off that major city of the world thing,
Okay, we'll go for a break, Tim. And when we come back, how did he make it to regional broadcasting? And we'll talk about the Philippines falling off the globe. Okay, here on Straight Talk.
What is the most essential part of your computer that makes you either love it or hate it? Did I hear you say your OS? If you did, you're correct. And today, we're going to explore the operating systems from the outsider Linux to the latest from Microsoft.